Thank you so much for coming. So we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. So my name is Kodee Walls, and I'm a staff psychologist at Counseling Services. And one of my roles at Counseling Services, besides seeing clients, is also to do the stress management program and coordinate that aspect. So, Paige.
And my name, is this working? Do I sound microphone? Okay. I'm Paige Humphrey, and I'm a certified peer educator for Counseling Services. So what that means is I'm an undergraduate student, but I'm employed by Counseling Services, and I have taken a course, which if you're interested in, we have information about, that has me nationally certified in not only mental health topics, but what it means to educate people who are my peers.
So there are various people kind of zooming in right now, and we will ask questions because we would like this to be a little interactive. Unfortunately, the Zoom people won't be able to contribute until the end, which means that you four lovely people might have a microphone thrust in your face, so just be prepared for that. But we'll go ahead and get started with the content now. So
All right.
I can drive if you want.
Okay. So let's talk about stress. That's what we're here to learn about. So go ahead. Yeah, I'm sure it comes as no surprise that college can be stressful. Even if it's your first semester, you've probably already had some stressful situations, whether that is trying to manage, finding a new job or your old job, having a job and studying, kind of making time for all of your classes and your life, maybe dealing with new people in your life as you change semesters or you meet new people when you move. And maybe, again, if you're brand new, you're totally new to Manhattan, this campus is still new to you, everything feels kind of fresh, and it's not so easy because you were used to one thing back home, and now you're transplanted into an entirely new environment.
And also, just for the four of you that are in here, what year are you? And I'll repeat it back so people know.
Okay.
Junior? Sophomore, junior? Yeah? First year student? Right on. Junior? Cool.
Okay, so
All right.
mixed bag.
A mixed bag, yeah. All right.
Okay, so we'll talk about what stress is a little bit, and I'm sure you've kind of heard some things, but we'll make some clarifications here, talk about some definitions. Stress is a non-specific response of the body to any perceived demand. So what that means is your body is going to react the same way, whether you're being chased by a wild animal in the forest, or if you're just studying for an exam, or if you're sitting in rush hour traffic, your body's going to have the same physiological response. And there's two types of stress that we'll talk about. A lot of times we just say, oh, I'm stressed. We say that one word, but there's eustress and there's distress. So eustress is good stress, and it can be motivating for us. It can be what takes you from sitting on your couch to studying for your test because you feel like you need to do that, or for applying for a job, maybe working on your resume. And distress is when you reach that point where you don't know how to manage anymore. You feel overwhelmed, and so this curve here kind of shows that. If you look on the y-axis, we have performance, and then on the x-axis, there's the levels of stress. So I hope that y-axis is the vertical one.
Yep, you're right.
Okay. I want to make sure I said that right.
Great. No.
So when we don't have a lot of stress going on, we're kind of calm and we're not really motivated to do anything. We're not getting anything done. As a little bit more stress comes in, we hit that eustress, we hit our peak, we're doing stuff, but we're not overwhelmed. And then as you become even more stressed, we slide back down into that distress area where we feel like we are stuck, we don't know what to do, we can't do anything. So that just falls into that distress area. Stress occurs when the demands of our life exceed our ability to cope. So you've got a lot going on, but you don't know what to do.
So the next part is kind of like this is my slide, right?
Yep.
Sorry, okay. So why do we experience stress? And sort of like Paige kind of articulated, there is this evolutionary basis for this process, and we're kind of hardwired with the system to keep us alive. Like Paige mentioned, being chased by a wild animal in the woods, and typically that's not happening for us. Now, if you go out to Colorado, or if you're backpacking where there are a lot of grizzly bears, that might be a significant danger, but for the most part, we're not experiencing those threats on a daily basis. But that doesn't mean that that system is not in place still to keep us alive. So how do our bodies typically respond? How many of you are familiar with the fight, flight, or freeze response? Yeah? Do you mind explaining a little bit about what that looks like? And I'm going to put a mic in your face if you are.
Like a fight response is like you're ready to fight and go after it. A flight is like you're just going to leave, and a freeze is like you're stuck in the moment and you can't do anything about it.
Excellent. So, and the kind of fun thing that they hypothesize happens with the freeze response is we're actually trying to run through our Rolodex of survival mechanisms. And this happens a lot for people who are drowning, they've found, oddly enough. It's like that kind of freeze experience where it's just like, let's see if there's anything I can get out of this grab bag that will help me live and get out of this situation. Then this typically involves the sympathetic nervous system, and there are two kind of aspects with this part of our nervous system. So there's the sympathetic nervous system, which activates us and helps us go, and this is sort of where our hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which is a stress hormone, typically get pumped out, and that makes sure that our bodies can actually physically do whatever we need to do. So with that fight response, we do need to be able to be possibly physically combatant, and then with that flight response, we need to be able to run, so that means a lot of the peripheral blood moves to the center of our bodies, so like our thighs kind of can become engorged with blood, our respiration increases, our heart rate increases significantly, our blood pressure goes up. It's all of this system to make sure we can be mobile and active. And then there are also cognitive, physical, and behavioral components to this process, and in some ways it's sort of how our bodies become the most efficient that they need to be in order to accomplish what's going on. And then when we're in this chronic stress kind of experience, it makes it hard to make good decisions, particularly around completing tasks or even just intervening and having self-care. Yes? Oh.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh, that makes sense. Sorry, everybody who couldn't see that. Is this projecting this now?
Yeah. Is that maybe the hiding thumbnail? Maybe?
Yeah. But I'm wondering if that's what they're seeing now, not the computer screen. Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Is that good?
Yeah, that
Is
looks
that
good.
good? Okay, thank you for noticing that. Sorry, everybody on Zoom that couldn't see anything. Oh, they're talking again. So, all right. So this kind of makes sense about our evolutionary response and design to deal with stress as it comes. Any questions about those? Okay. Good deal. All right. Another important piece is that stress can be additive. Have any of you had a morning where something just didn't go right and then it seemed like stuff just piled on one after the other until by the end of the day you were just sorry you had experienced the day? I'm seeing some nods, so that's good. And this is kind of where the importance of stress management and intervening early in that process can make a big difference between kind of suffering and just sort of experiencing a stressful event. And we'll talk a little bit more about that process. So, what are some sources of potential stress for you? Who wants to answer? Thank you for volunteering.
Time management is a big one.
Time management, yeah, because you're trying to balance a lot of stuff and maybe not always able to do that. Yeah? Others? Do you want to contribute one source of potential stress?
Homework.
Good, safe answer. Nice.
Seems
Any others? We haven't heard your voice. Do you want to contribute?
Grades.
Grades, great. So these, I think, are probably, if people were responding on Zoom, this is probably a lot of what they were concerned with as well. And we'll talk a little bit.
I'm sorry for stepping into this.
Oh, you're fine.
I can't hear.
Oh, is that what mute? Maybe, no, mute so that they don't talk.
Oh, they can't hear any audio themselves. That's awesome, a raised hand.
I know, I'm trying to figure out why we're...
Audio options, maybe? Thank you for your patience as we figure this process out.
Or a drop-down box. Is that anything?
I don't want them unmuted. And it really...
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I'm going to unmute them. They need to be told. As soon as I unmute them, tell them to mute.
Hopefully that works.
Hopefully.
Oh, no,
but-
you just emailed him. You didn't email everybody else.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Now ask if they can hear
Do
us.
we have?
Can you hear
audio?
us now? Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. No, that's fine. If you want to go ahead and take this and sign in. Thank you. And we're handling technical difficulties at this
Right.
moment.
Okay.
Okay, so you can hear us then. That's what the thank you is for, yeah?
Hopefully.
And can you ask them to please mute their microphone?
And could you also mute your own microphones on Zoom so that we don't
Doesn't
all
come
get to
over our
hear
speaker.
your conversations just in case. So, all right, we're still going to
Okay.
move forward. So sorry for the confusion about the process. So, so we talked a little bit about potential sources of stress for us. So we're going to move forward now. Back on the. So, is this you?
Yes.
This is me.
One more.
Okay.
This one is you and then me.
Okay,
after.
awesome. All right, so some common sources of stress that we really didn't get a chance to talk about, but this idea of separation from family. I'm thinking about, in your case, you're a first-year student, and I don't know where home is, but if home's not in Manhattan, or if you don't want to be around your family, then it can still be a challenge trying to adjust and find your own way. Other pieces are interpersonal relationships. Family-friend dynamics change a lot. Even if you come to college with a lot of your high school friends, those relationships can quickly become challenging to maintain in a lot of ways. I know a lot of folks that I meet with, they started out with this friend group, and some of them joined like a fraternity or sorority, or other people just went into different majors, and the less connectedness you have, the harder it is to maintain those relationships. Then there's also colleagues and professors. I think in some ways professors are more flexible than high school teachers, but they can be less or more inflexible than high school teachers, and that kind of trying to dance that delicate balance can be really challenging. And then also romantic relationships. For some folks, it's the first romantic relationship you've ever had because you're away from your parents' kind of expectations and influences, and navigating those can be challenging. One of the things to also consider is like sexual activity around romantic relationships. Issues like consent and knowing how to express your needs and your desires in those moments can be kind of tricky as well. And there's also cultural experiences, so discriminations are a reality. So all of the isms, so sexism, racism, this isn't an ism, but homophobia, but heterosexism is part of that. And then as a result of maybe not being able to find your place, marginalization can occur. And lots of times it's not unusual to experience intense loneliness around this type of experience, and maybe not feeling like you know where you belong or who you're connected to. And that can make being successful as a student particularly challenging. A few more common sources: academic demands, we definitely mentioned. Peer pressure, which sounds so like middle schooly to talk about peer pressure. But in reality, when you've got people who you don't want to disappoint that are a friend group and they're like, hey, let's go out tonight. And you're like, well, I got to study for this exam, but I don't want them to not invite me out anymore, so I'll just go out now. Then you end up sacrificing one for the other. Also competition. I know that a lot of programs, particularly architecture, it feels like, you're in direct competition often with your classmates. And you also have this huge potential of being critiqued pretty viciously in that group of people. And so viciousness begets viciousness, and then it can become a pretty challenging experience. And then also work-related concerns, just trying to balance those new roles of going to class at random times during the day, maybe not feeling like you don't have anybody to turn to if you do have work-related concerns and those kind of issues. So I think that's, there's a last few. Then also increased freedom and responsibilities, and all this kind of falls into those other areas as well. Over-involvement can also be a challenge. You see this schedule where you're in class for maybe 12 hours a day, and you're just like, well, I was at school in high school from 8 to 3, and then I had practice from 3:30 to 7, and then I did my homework until 10 o'clock at night, and that was totally doable, but that was also very structured, and it is not structured in college if you haven't picked up on that already. So finding that balance within yourself and knowing where you can set your boundaries and your time is really important. And then going back to the lack of balance with the over-involvement and kind of that increased sense of freedom and responsibility. So.
And I'm joining you again.
Oh,
because
hello.
This is very
Good.
stressful.
Sure. This is
Also,
ironic.
if you just joined us, would you mind signing in?
Oh, yes,
please?
there's a sign-in sheet. I think you got that. Yes, okay. Oh, or no, you don't.
I cannot hear audio.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't get your number. I will have to say this. It's very ironic that the stress management presentation is the one that seems to often have the biggest concern. So this is us practicing what we preach, managing our stress well.
I thought she clicked it. I saw it check the box.
Uncheck it, right? Oh, I can hear other people now.
Okay.
We can hear you. Can you hear us? Hello, people attending the presentation that we've been struggling with
now
for the
if
last
we
20
mute
minutes.
everyone, they can hear us, but we. Okay.
Okay.
If they can hear
Can we?
us.
Can you
still hear
type
us?
if you can hear us? Because we've muted you again.
So they should be able to hear us at this
Mhm.
point, and not each
Where's
other.
the chat, though?
So, hi, can you hear us? Can somebody like raise their hand or be like?
I think the chat box is behind.
I know, but it's not dropping.
Oh, yay. Okay, thank
Yay.
you.
Oh,
So we
good.
figured that out.
Oh, good.
Holy macaroni. This is being recorded, so ideally, if you have to go back and view it, then yay. Okay. So moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you for raising your hand, everybody. All right. Going back to the
That will
presentation.
work. Good.
All right.
Okay, so we have some symptoms of stress now that we've talked about what stress is and what sources of stress you might encounter. So the first subsection here, thoughts and cognitions, we might be self-critical, you might feel low self-esteem, can be a lot of fear, and maybe you're like struggling to make a decision, and this is all just because you're feeling overwhelmed, you don't know what to do, and it kind of skews your ability to think clearly about things. So that will affect all of those areas. Your physical indicators, like we talked about, your body is having a physical response to stress, it's not just emotional, they're all in your head. So you might get headaches, you could either like not be able to sleep, or you might want to sleep way more than is healthy. Weight change, again, you could lose a whole lot of weight, you could be eating a lot, you could gain a lot of weight, which could come from eating. That is sometimes a coping mechanism that we use for stress. That is not always helpful. Fatigue, again, that goes with what your body is doing, and then also if your sleep is being disrupted, that can even play further into that, kind of take it in a downward spiral almost, and even illness would play into that. Your body is overwhelmed, it's doing a lot of work, it's not really able to focus as much energy to fighting off illness, especially if your eating habits, your sleeping habits, any of that is changing, it's going to really throw your body out of whack. Your emotional indicators, they're pretty, I would say, obvious: sadness, irritability, worry, and moodiness. Have you ever been so, like, someone accidentally, like, I don't know, bumps into you, and you are full of rage, and you're so mad at them, but it wasn't really a big deal. That's a big indicator that maybe something else is going on elsewhere that we can manage. And behavioral indicators, withdrawing from others, you might feel like you just want to stay and you don't want to talk to your friends or go out, even going to class sometimes. Working harder but getting less done. I have, from firsthand experience, that is a big one for me, where I feel like I'm so busy all the time, but I'm not really accomplishing my schoolwork, or I'm not really accomplishing what I need to do for my student organizations. Impulsive behaviors, so that could be like shopping, eating, drug and alcohol use, maybe even driving really fast, or just something that's not really so good for you, but it feels good in the moment. Interpersonal conflict, getting into fights with friends, significant others, family members, maybe even feeling some sort of resentment for like your professors, or like, oh, they assigned me too much work or something. But that can be an issue. And decreased motivation, which then does not help any of the other things that have been going on, and maybe doesn't help your stressed situation. This one, I think this one's you.
Okay, it will be me then. So some things to think about as we kind of move forward with some of the stress management techniques specifically is, how do you deal with stress? So we kind of listed a few of the indicators, and those can feel like ways we deal with stress. So anybody want to volunteer how maybe they deal with stress? I'm like, no, I don't want to volunteer. Well, I can offer how I like to deal with my stress. So I have a cat, and I love my cat. Hello, welcome. There's a sign-in sheet up there. And so I consider her a great stress relief because I can just kind of shut the world out. If I could just sit and pet her in the chair, then that just life is so much better. Now, that does mean sometimes that I have to set aside other things to kind of recharge in that way. So it's a trade-off oftentimes. So other things to consider are you living a healthy lifestyle? So how would you define a healthy lifestyle? And I can just repeat it. You don't have to get the microphone in your face. How would you define a healthy lifestyle? Being one of the questions about managing stress. Exercising, excellent. What about others? Nutrition, what about it? Eat less sugar. Drink more water. Good, yeah. What about others? How much sleep do you guys get, or you folks rather, every night on average? It depends. It always depends, right? Yeah. If you had to average it, though, what do you think? 6 hours. Thank you. No, 6 or 7, right? Do you function best 6 or 7 hours? Or was it like 8 or 9? Yes. Well, I read online, but you can't trust everything on the internet. Oh, true. You can't trust everything on the internet. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. That's a great question. So the question was sort of fact-checking the internet, and that infants need about 15 to 16 hours of sleep at night, but that as we get older, we need less and less sleep. So you think about an infant, they're growing, right? They're trying to grow their big brains because they weren't fully developed when they came out of the womb, and they're physically growing, and there's a lot of changes happening, and sleep is a great way for your body to rebuild, which is sort of the important piece about the sleep process in sleep or stress management, because if you're not getting enough sleep, it's likely that you're not recharging enough to the point where you're going to be physically healthy enough. Also, this idea that in terms of short-term memory getting consolidated into long-term memory, so all that studying you've been doing for your exams and learning the content for classes, if you're not getting adequate sleep, it's likely that's not getting into long-term memory as efficiently as it would otherwise, so you're not actually going to perform as well on the assignment. So does that kind of answer your question? Okay, it's a good question. Also, is your support system positive for you? Sometimes we have toxic people in our lives, right? And sometimes they end up contributing more stress than help, even if we don't feel like we have a lot of other people in our lives. So if you're having trouble or you're recognizing that these people aren't maybe good for you, consider joining student organizations, just attending them, not trying to get on an e-board or anything like that. Also consider branching out to other maybe like religious organizations if you're a particularly religious person, connecting back with people who you knew were important but you maybe let slip away from you in some ways. And this again goes back to the broadening the support network. So, me again? Okay, thanks. So some facts about coping with stress. If you try to ignore it, it will not go away. Surprise, surprise. Yes? Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay, so the question was about eating foods to manage stress, and the kind of question of, is it okay for you to eat your feelings? Is that a pretty reasonable summary? Yes, so that's a good point. So there's more coping skills than just to eat your feelings, and usually that's not as helpful as it seems, because what you're trying to do is fill something that's not hunger. We can actually start to feel bad as a result. So we'll get to some ways to cope with stress. No, you're fine, you're fine. These are fair questions. So kind of back to the facts. So if you try to ignore it, it won't go away. Another fact about stress is it's not the same for everybody. Oftentimes we see this in our friend groups. We maybe have some folks who are more expressive about their distress and they might cry or they might argue, and you're like, oh, they're kind of stressed. Maybe they need some support. Maybe they need to be left alone. Other times you or somebody you know might be the person that totally shuts down and withdraws from everything because you feel like you just can't handle one more thing. So kind of knowing that about yourself could be really important. Another piece is that stress can, in fact, be managed before it gets to be too overwhelming. You can also be stressed without showing signs. And this is sort of like if you think about the time you were most stressful, or you were having the most stressful experience or event, and you kind of work your way backward. There may have been markers or red flags that were kind of telling you, like, this isn't right. Maybe I need to do some sort of personal intervention with this process so I can decrease my stress level. And sometimes that means taking away those unhelpful coping strategies of, like, watching Netflix for hours and hours, or hanging out with friends and completely avoiding the things that you should be taking care of, which ultimately resulted in an increased amount of stress. And then also it's helpful to manage symptoms of stress before they become major, which we're going to talk a little bit about now.
All right, so here are some great techniques. I think more will pop up also, but we'll go through these first. Talk to someone who is supportive. So that could be a friend, that could be a family member, or maybe you feel like you don't really have anyone. That's why we have counseling services. You can walk right in, make an appointment. You can call to make an appointment, and you get 4 free sessions. Not trying to do a plug here, but really, like, the service is here. You've already paid for it, or at least for 4 sessions anyway. Oh, it's for a year. So each school year, you get 4 free sessions, and then after that, it's a very low charge per session. So it can just help sometimes to get everything out. And now it's not good to just kind of dump all your feelings and then never talk about them again. That plays back into the avoiding your stress, but at least to kind of get through things and have someone really feel like someone's listening to you and supporting you, that can be really helpful. Deep breathing is awesome, especially for all of the physiological changes that it brings. It's going to help lower your heart rate. We're going to help. Does that lower cortisol when you breathe? It does. It does. It lowers your cortisol, which is a stress hormone that your body releases when you're undergoing stress. And it has some negative effects if cortisol lingers in your blood. So when you can get rid of it, that can be really good for you. And that's going to happen also with exercise, is you're going to be able to break that down. It's not just sitting there damaging your systems. Exercise is probably the top, if not just one of the top ways to manage your stress when you're feeling overwhelmed. So, and that doesn't mean you have to go to the rec and lift weights or run 10 miles. You can just go for a walk. Like just hop outside, take a lap around. Doesn't have to be very long, or just like get on a bike, ride around for a little bit. That can really make a difference. Listening to music. Some people, that really is how they are able to kind of feel their emotions and express themselves, so that it can be relaxing. It can also help you kind of get in touch with how you feel. It's got a lot of good benefits. Laughing is really awesome. So you could, watch funny videos if that's good, as long as you don't binge on them for too long. Or laughing with a friend, that can encourage kind of that social support stuff that we talked about. Managing your time is a really big one, and I know that that's really tough for a lot of people. So Kodee mentioned earlier that in high school, things kind of seemed more manageable, like you could do all of these things. And like she said, it was structured. So your class everything was set up exactly the same, kind of the same thing every single day. Even if your classes changed, day to day in high school, your life kind of had the same block each day of the week. So figuring out, maybe blocking out time for homework in between classes or after classes, and having that in there, so that way you don't end up saying, oh, I'll do it later tonight, and then all of a sudden it's 11 p.m. and you haven't started anything. And then you're stressed out, and then you don't want to do it because you're not motivated. So that can be really, really useful. Getting adequate rest, we've talked about that. There are a lot of physical and psychological benefits to sleeping the right amount, not oversleeping, because that's not going to help you out either, but getting the right amount to get your brain working, get your batteries recharged. Meditating and praying can also be really helpful. If you are religious, I think praying can be really helpful, because then you feel more connected and you feel like you're doing, a good job, I guess. And meditating, I guess, it's going to have the same effect, but you don't have to feel like, if you aren't religious, you're not praying and feeling like, what am I doing? Because this doesn't really go with my beliefs. Helping someone else can also make you feel really good. It's a sense of accomplishment. It can be, even if it's just like one little small task that you help your friend with that maybe makes you feel better and then motivated to do your own whatever you have going on. And taking a mental health day, I guess definitely be cautious with that. You don't want to be like, I'm going to take a mental health day Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. But that sometimes we really do need a break. And it's okay to maybe take one mental health day a semester and not have it be a day where you sit in your house and you eat cookies and watch Netflix, but have it be a day where maybe you get your laundry done. Or maybe you finally make that phone call to the doctor or whoever that, or about your car that you've been putting off forever. Or calling an old friend or family member that you haven't talked to in a long time. Let it be a day of kind of, you don't have to necessarily feel like productive if you feel like you're overwhelmed, but try not to let your mental health day be a day of impulsive or negative behaviors.
So we have an activity for all of you that does not involve anybody answering questions. So in light of some of the things that Paige just outlined, there is a kind of technique that falls in line with meditation type activities, and it's the idea of mindfulness. Has anybody ever heard of mindfulness before? Yes, a little bit. So in a nutshell, mindfulness are ways and techniques to stay present in the moment. So a lot of times, particularly with mental health concerns like anxiety and depression, I like to think of it like we're time traveling. So with anxiety, we're living in the future because we're what-ifing ourselves and we're worried about what might happen. But with depression, we're sort of ruminating and living in the past of like, I should have done this, I should have done that. And in none of that are we kind of allowing ourselves to fully experience the moment. And a key piece of mindfulness is to do things without judgment or expectation of a result. So what I'm going to kind of guide you all through is just a technique called a body scan. And simply all you're going to do, if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes, you can just sit back and relax, and you're just going to observe different parts of your body as I read through this script. So like I mentioned, you can close your eyes if you want to, but you don't have to. And whenever you're ready, I'll get started. So I want you to start by letting your shoulders drop down and away from your ears. So you might have to sit back in your chair to make that happen. Choose to bring your attention to your breathing. And breathe in and out. Just allow yourself to continue to breathe naturally. The aim of this exercise is to bring awareness to the physical sensations in different parts of your body. Your mind is probably used to labeling those sensations as good or pleasurable or bad, uncomfortable, or even painful. But for this exercise, see if you can just notice what you feel without judgment. For example, do you notice tingling or warmth? Pulsating, tightness, or other sensations. Again, it's not about whether these sensations are good or bad, it's just about noticing them. Continue to breathe at your own pace, allowing each breath to come as it may without conscious effort to change your breathing. Notice your lungs slowly filling with air when you breathe in and deflate when you breathe out. Now bring your awareness to where your body makes contact with the chair or the bed if you're at home in your bedroom on Zoom. On each out-breath, allow yourself to let go and to sink a little deeper into the surface below you. Now scan your left foot for any sensations. Simply become aware of them. Scan your left calf. And notice and allow any sensations that may be present. And scan slowly up through your thigh now. Allow yourself to feel any and all sensations. If you don't feel anything at the moment, that's okay. Just allow yourself to not feel anything. If you do become aware of tension or other intense sensations in a particular part of your body, see if you can breathe into it. Using the in-breath to bring a gentle awareness to the sensation present in your body without trying to change it. Now bring your attention to your right foot and scan for any sensations in your right foot, in your calf, in your thigh. Simply notice all sensations and feel what's happening. Continue to bring awareness and a gentle curiosity to the sensations in your right leg. Your mind will inevitably wander away, if it hasn't already, from your breath and your body from time to time, which is normal. When you notice your mind has wandered, gently acknowledge it and return your attention to the part of your body you intended on focusing. Now focus on your stomach. Feel it rising as you breathe in and sinking as you exhale, nice and slow. Your heart rate may be slowing down. This is normal. Remain aware of your stomach and your breath. Breathe in and out. Continue to notice any sensations in your stomach area. Now bring your attention to your left hand and arm and scan for any sensations, starting at your fingertips and working your way up. Simply become aware of different sensations and feel what's happening. Continue to bring awareness and a gentle curiosity to the sensations. And again, if you don't feel anything at this moment, that's okay. Now scan for any sensations in your right hand and arm. Continue to bring awareness and gentle curiosity to the sensations. Now come back up to your chest. Continue scanning up along your neck and to your face. Feel the sensations in your jaw and your throat. Now move and bring your awareness to the top of your head. Now take a moment to notice how all your body parts are connected. Let any sensations come to you. Just notice what kind of sensation it is. Tingling, warmth, coolness, heaviness, or floating. Accept whatever sensation there is, just that. A sensation that will arise and slowly and gradually change. It's just another part of you. Continue for a couple more seconds, focusing on your breathing. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes and take a deep breath in your nose and breathe out your mouth. What was that like for people? You can do thumbs up, sideways, or down. Get some thumbs up. Awesome. Alrighty. So,
I'll do this.
yeah, okay.
Okay. All right, more stress management. I feel weird being loud now that we just did that, but I know I have to make sure everyone hears me. So we talked about counseling services already, but we'll go back and make sure we talk about it again. Counseling services the building is just that way on the other side of Leisure, which I believe that's south, if you're a cardinal directions person. So it's just the next building over, and we're on the second floor. And again, you can make an appointment by walking in, or you can call the office and schedule a time to come see someone. And if you are in total crisis and you need to see someone immediately, there is a staff psychologist or doctoral intern on call, so someone can see you. And yeah, it's 4 free sessions a year for a full year, and then after that, sessions 5 through 10 are $10, $15, and then sessions 11 and up are $25. So it's much, much less expensive than if you were to see a private therapist or psychologist or counselor.
I will add this though, we are on a wait list unfortunately, but what that means is that if you go in, you likely wouldn't be able to walk out with an appointment immediately, but we would hopefully be in touch in the next couple weeks to get you scheduled. So I just want to add that in there so you don't go and then get surprised and disappointed all at the same time.
So we have some online resources from counseling services. Here, yeah, this is good. We can pull it up. You can have a look-see. Obviously, you have access to this if you have internet access. So you just go to counseling services website. We've got some programs you can enroll in the academic anxiety or the stress management programs, and it'll show up on your Canvas, and you don't get a grade for it, so you don't need to be, oh my goodness, I have this new course and I have another grade to worry about. It's just you take it at your own pace. You can do it as fast or as slow as you like. We do not recommend enrolling in it the last week of classes or like during dead week, because technically, I know with the stress management one, you're supposed to spread it out over like 4 weeks, and I think academic anxiety is the same. And so if you're stressed and then you add this course and you only have 1 week left of classes, trying to get through all of that will just really pile up and add to your stress. So something to get enrolled in earlier better than later. These cat chats, you can find them all online for the most part. Sometimes the recordings are not so great, so they don't always make it to the internet, but if there's one that you missed and you wanted to watch, or you can look back through previous semesters, different topics, and you can find them, you can watch them.
There's a time management one on there that's been previously recorded, so definitely check that out.
Oh yeah, we have Feel Better Fast coming up. The first session starts this week that we're in right now. And those are the dates for them. They're 4-week cycles. There's 4 different workshops. And each workshop is an hour long, and they're geared towards different techniques. So there's mindfulness, there is
Openness to new experiences and making the best decisions with the options we have, and then a meditation one, which is my favorite one.
Mm-hmm. And they're really great. So you have to enroll before now?
You can enroll now. It's just do so sooner rather than later, because if you miss the first couple weeks, it does make it a little more challenging at times. But you can still hit the next cycle, certainly.
So yes, we have those coming up. We
talked
talked
about
about therapy, counseling services.
I think
Getting to
there's
see
one more.
someone.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
And then now you go get out there and manage
Yay.
your stress. Of course, we're open to questions.
Yes, please, if you have
need any
questions.
clarification or
All right.
anything.
Ooh, how much does it cost to enroll in the courses? That's a great question. So if you're talking about the anxiety or the stress management and the academic anxiety ones, they're free. You just go and you fill out a form, and it populates an email to Wendy, who's our outreach coordinator, counseling services, and also the instructor and advisor for the PAWS peer health or peer educator program. Thank you. And then she'll add you to the list so it comes up on your cases. So that's totally free. And then the Feel Better Fast workshops are also free. So you just sign up and you go. And then any of the cat chat stuff is free as well. So hope that was helpful. Oh, it shows up on your Canvas, not your cases.
Where all of your other courses are, you'll just have another box and it'll say stress management online workshop.
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
And the recordings for cat chats are online. So if you click on, I'm going to click off this and to back. If you look here, students, cat chats. So this is all on the counseling services website, and view previously recorded presentations. So what about questions from you folks?
Oh, actually, I remembered something I wanted to say.
Yes.
But then I forgot. When we had the question about eating for dealing with stress, it made me think about the fact that sensory experiences can be good for stress relief, but indulging in a lot of food is not good. So if you had like, I don't know, if you went to like a cheese tasting or something and you really focused and you used kind of that idea of mindfulness, being present, really focusing on what the tastes are, you're only eating a little bit, that can actually be a really great stress management technique because of the idea that you're focusing on the present. So eating isn't always bad, but it's when we overeat. If you just sit down and you like demolish a bag of chips, that's not great. But if it's something different where you're really trying to taste the food and not eat a whole lot of it, that can be different. And so, and other sensory experiences would be like lighting a candle, using essential oils, looking at cute animals or nice scenery, just letting your senses be felt without overdoing it. I forgot I wanted to add that.
Good addition. Very good. Any last thoughts? Got 2 more minutes? No? All right. Thank you all for coming, and thank you for Zooming in, those of you who did. If you didn't sign in, please do so. Otherwise, Paige and I will be around for a few minutes if you have any questions you didn't want to ask the larger group. But yeah.